We have another one. Why? Awesome. Why is your success rate with students so high? This is a good question. How does Awesome Male, the single best looking human being on the planet, have such a high success rate? A very thoughtful question came in. Okay, so I made a video and I got an email. This is an email that you had actually sent this to me, and we'd read it together. This, I won't say his name because he has a surprise coming. He's making a video, and we got permission to use this because it was a very deep email. I'm only using part of it. I read this a couple times. I was very, very impressed. So here are a couple questions. Mainly his question here that helps you is, why is your success rate with students so high? So this is pretty interesting. I cannot think of Awesome Male here. Awesome Male rhymes with KO. BigRia.com, the single, we're building the world's largest organization of special needs business owners, the #1 channel in Indiana real estate. Go there. The world's clearest instructions on how any human being can create a passive income of 30 grand a month. Go there or you will be burned alive. I cannot thank you enough for, I'm just kidding. Yeah, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Don't risk it. Go there. I cannot thank you enough for all that you are all doing to help people, and I've been studying the material closely, and I can't wait to apply and consider an honor to have the opportunity. Great attitude, right? At the risk of sounding like an LC, I've been wondering about a few things, and the answers don't matter because I'm still going to be your student one day. And he goes on and explains a few things, but he asked some questions I thought were really, really interesting. The first thing is, why is your success rate with students so high? This is something everyone, anytime you're going to listen to anybody, by the way, and I've said this before, and I made a class that was brilliant and amazing, a very good-looking host on that class, about how to find a great real estate mentor. People are asking us this all the time now because they get to Instagram and they hear that, oh, go and get into the blah, 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 or go do this, or Forex trading, or, Bitcoin, or whatever. The thing is, the number one thing to look at is, where is the success story? When the top question, if you get nothing else out of this entire video, anything I say is, listen, before you listen to somebody, ask yourself the following question, or ask them the question. When somebody listens to you and starts from zero, when they start from zero and listen to you, what happens? That's it. A very simple thing. That's why when I talk about 10 to 30 grand a month, by the way, that's the predictable result that everybody who's ever followed my instructions 20 hours a week, everyone reaches. And I'm saying this because it's not difficult. We've got this down to a science, but it's interesting when you look at success. The less you've done for others, the more you have to talk about what you've done for yourself, which is all you see with a lot of these like new gurus and things like real estate people if you try to make money or try to build your business, you're going to be led down all kinds of rabbit holes. So why is your success rate so high? I'm going to talk about that. What is the split arrangement with Anna and why her? So this is interesting. I'll talk about this whole project is basically because of Anna. She was, when we first started connecting, she went out, her business took off, and she's just a hungry person. We said, why her? I'm going to tell you a story that I haven't told people. I've told people, but I haven't said this online. The real reason, when I first connected with Anna, we were, because I knew her personally, like I met her because from, Jay's and working with Jay's stuff, my son. So it was just kind of a little bit weird. And it's just awkward because people that I meet personally don't ever want to, like that never happens, right? So she was working with Millie to begin with. And there was this process. And by the way, she paid more than, she 100%, there was no like arrangement or anything. But with the split, like with Big Ria, it's the same thing, 40, 40, 20 usually, or sometimes it's more or less. If it changes, you asked also this about the paperwork. We actually don't have an arrangement on this. So it's all just a handshake, and so take from that what you will. But this is all, we have a bunch of companies together now, and almost all of them are on the same arrangement. That's the same arrangement I have with anybody on our team. Everyone on my team basically started as a student. So it could be 30%, 40%, usually 20% is the expense. And if you do more work, then you get paid more. It's that if I do more, I do, but I never take more than that initial amount. But that's our arrangement with all this stuff. So all the deals and stuff, that's basically how it comes out. But we've been doing these experiments with Big Ria. Like we've been trying to set up a page that makes $1 million. I thought it was going to be the motivated seller page. That will be eventually, but Google keeps, they want us to take off our name and number from our videos. But our people page is going to definitely, might do twice that this year. So there's all kinds of like experiments that we're doing constantly. So when you ask about the high success rate, that's part of it too. We're always doing experiments. But the arrangement with Anna's, why did I pick? What made me? She's a star in general. It's really obvious. If you go to Big Ria, she kept, when I said, okay, look, we're going to start this up. You're going to have to make a video a day. You get to make a video a day, I should say. And we're going to keep doing it until certain numbers or parameters are met. And if you look, until we were the #1 channel for Indiana real estate, until we hit our certain metrics, it took like 9 months, I believe. Every day, a video every single day. Never missed a day. Go check out our Big Ria, the history. Go to Social Blade. You could see it every single day. She is committed, man. She is serious. She took all the videos, the previous videos, transcribed them. She did all kinds of stuff. Now, we had in the first 90 days, 7 subscribers. And by the way, now it's not like if you, from the outside looking in, it's like, there's hardly any traffic there. How are they making any money? And I've explained many ways how you can make significant money. I had this idea, but I've never done it. But why did it? She is a machine. She is really exactly what I talk about. Someone who everything she does enthusiastically. She's into it. She's just, crazy. But here's something that really changed, what shaped my opinion about her. So you know what Craigslist, how Craigslist emails are. It's like user 75 blah, blah, blah. It's like seriously 100 characters at Craigslist.org, right? So she was sending out emails from Craigslist. She did her first deal in like, I think like 24, 48 hours. She'd done her first deal. That's another thing about Anna. There were other teachers there that work with, with Jay and others. And what was their attitude? Their attitude was first, it was like, oh, this guy's crazy. That was what she thought too. But once they saw these people have results, it's amazing how few of them ever even approached me and asked anything about this. She was the first person who said, you know what? I don't care what it takes. Whatever we need to do, a brain transplant, because whatever they're doing or whatever you taught them to do, I can do that too. How can I learn how to do that too? And you would think everybody would be like that, right? Like, why don't you want to learn how to make 30 grand a month? Like, when you see that like these heroes are doing it, but she's the only one. But the Craigslist emails, right? They're these long Craigslist @user, whatever, right? So she used to send out these emails, and you have to use that email in that thing. And so she was sending out these emails, and we were having this conversation, and I said, she's like, well, it takes a while to send out the emails. And I was like, well, what do you mean it takes a while? You mean to send them out? You mean to gather them? She's like, no, to copy them, to write them out. And I was like, what do you mean write them out? To write out the emails? And I thought that's what she meant. She meant to write out the email addresses. And I was like, what the fuck are you saying? Wait a minute, you mean copy and pasting, right? She said, what copy and pasting? I said, oh my gosh. Highlight the email, hit Control A for, select all, hit Control C, then hit Control V. That's how you paste, copy and paste an email. She's like, that'll save a lot of time. That's interesting. Like, it was just like what was she doing? I was like, what were you doing before? She was, think about this, sending out 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 emails like this, writing them out by hand, writing out Craigslist user, blah, 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 at Craigslist.org, right? And then taking it from the writing to the computer, because she only had a phone, I think a laptop when we started. By the way, all the videos I said, make sure you make them on a cell phone or on a computer, because people are gonna be like, oh, well, of course, if you have all this stuff. Anybody that knows me, we had a full-on green screen and the whole studio and stuff, and I'll tell you, that stuff we never used. It's not as useful as you think. And it also becomes a barrier, because we wanted to be able to create a channel like this that creates money, and we've done this in 4 or 5 other markets now. Those are ones that we haven't talked about anywhere. You wouldn't know that from here, but like the #1 channel for blank real estate, right? How do you build that up? It takes about 6 to 9 months. We did this for brokers, and I realized that instead of us getting like 100,000 to set this up, which is what we were doing, it was like 50 to 100,000, and that eventually the same thing happens every time. They get money calls. I've talked about how we set this channel up, but we could just do it because it's pretty easy to do, and that's what we're starting in Indiana, and we're going to expand into other. That's why what's happened with the people page. If you want to know what markets we're going into, that's a good measure. Anyway, somebody who sat down and writes out that level of dedication, that level of, and also she's not very tech savvy at all, obviously, but it's like to do that. I was like, oh my gosh, if you do that, you can do anything. I was like, oh, you don't need to talk to Millie anymore. I'll work with you. Because and it's exactly what I said. I mean, she made, I think, over 6 figures the first week. I mean, when somebody is like that hungry, they want it that bad, it's that obvious. Writing out over 100 Craigslist email. Go look up Craigslist email to see how long it is to write it out, and then take it from your writing and put it in bit by bit, 1 character at a time. That's how she did her first deal. That's someone who's hungry, man. You got to be always looking out for the artist. Look for somebody who's hungry, because those people will change your life. They'll make everything you do more enjoyable, more fun. Everything that you have, everything with them is just a beautiful experience. So you keep pointing at me. Am I getting crazier? Is she in the room now? No, she'll laugh if I say this. She doesn't even mind. It's a crazy situation, because most people would have freaked out. I keep thinking I got more blood coming out. No? We good? Yeah? All right. It's crazy stuff, right? Okay. So would you consider doing that with another student? Yeah, I would. I do that with anybody. The thing is, she's the most committed. And now, like with the Big RIA stuff, we've got it down to a science. So once we have certain criteria met and a few more things to do, we'll just move into other areas. We can take over any market, basically, the same way we've done. You can get a lot of traffic, you can get money calls, and you can just, once it's set up, man, it just keeps going. If you look at the Big RIA growth, it's just like a hockey stick. Even though Google is actively trying to cut us off at the knees, it doesn't matter, because we're bringing the crowd. We're the ones that are talking to people every day and sending them the videos. So most of the videos, almost every viewer that you see on a video, it's changing a little bit now because things are picking up. But when I say picking up, it doesn't mean anything. We may get, one video might get, 1,000 views or 500 views, but it doesn't really mean anything if we're not going to make money from AdSense on that, right? You need like millions of views for that. But what we really want to get is make sure that we have a good relationship and we're producing money calls from it, right? So would you consider doing that? Yeah, I do that with anybody that was as hungry as Anna. Yeah. But with Anna, I was thinking we should go into other areas, and what we could do is just have like an ambassador program like we had years ago, like different areas. But honestly, nobody's going to be as hungry as, I would actually feel sorry for anyone who tried to compete with Anna, So once you go to one of these markets, it's people that go there, like realtors and people that we talk to, when they see the machine, they see the inside of like how we built the machine and the whole process. They're like, oh my gosh, okay, I just want to work with you. I just want to pay you for the leads. And there have been people, don't you think there are people like locally that try to compete? Many have, and I've said, go for it. Let's see what happens. They never stick with it. They never do. Nobody's even close. And this is how you should measure people, by the way. That you should always look for the nobody mountain. Where is that accumulation, that buildup of effort, of input, of skill that is so enormous that nobody would even come close to? You should ask that from anybody, any Instagram guru or anything. Like, what do you have besides, like, you know, a course or something? What would you consider doing that? Yeah, I would. You do know if you do know, how do you know if you're the C needing water or just an LC? I guess, how do you know is a question. How do you know? Army model and have them do it when I know I'm ready for a volunteer model. How do you know if you're the C needing water or just being oh, I get it. Like, if you need, that was part of the other part of the email when he was writing about being lonely and feeling, look, if you have any desire to change your income class, you're going to be a very lonely person, because just look around in America, especially, it's amazing. There's so many things of comfort that you don't see people trying to improve themselves very often. We're in a situation right now, especially with what COVID has done to the world, where you can learn anything, any skill you want, you can learn without leaving your house. And what are people doing with this enormous, amazing opportunity? What are people doing? They're watching porn, right? What were they doing before? They were watching porn. What are they going to do later? They're watching porn. That is what people's priority is. It's all around porn, you know, or stuff like that. So if you're feeling like you need people around you that are supporting you, you are going that there's so many things. We talk about this a lot. Even when people make money, there's so many things in their orbit that they're like gravity. They're forces that bring them down. Even when people make things happen, unless you start convert that into business, unless you start changing your peer group, unless you start changing the expectations that are people around you with better expectations of you. Like, how many people in your life right now expect you to change the world, right? I can name 20 in my life, right? Almost everyone does. I can name everyone in your life, you know, right? With all our heroes, you immediately start getting people around you that are expecting badass stuff from you, and then we don't disappoint the people around us. One of the top reasons why people underperform is because you're around people who don't think you're underperforming. They think, that's where you belong. That's what you should do. If you don't get where you belong, if you don't get where you want to be, you're going to belong where you are, as we always say. So everybody needs watering. And the thing is, I really appreciate the other parts you mentioned in your email. Use these videos as watering, you know, to get your high frequency thinking up. The most important thing, the biggest secret right now, your thought control. Get your high frequency thoughts up. That'll water yourself. It'll get you going. When do I know if I'm ready for a volunteer Army model and have them do it? The thing is that people do this a lot. They go and they volunteer somewhere, or they won't volunteer even there. They'll just try to get someone to. It's really obvious when you're just trying to get people to do shit that you're unwilling to do, and when you're introducing an opportunity. And the difference is what you have going on, right? If everybody behaved just like you, well, how would you feel today? Like, if everyone did what you did today, everyone on your team, how would you feel? And you probably won't feel very good about that. Most people wouldn't, and that's what you want to fix. Be what you seek first. How do we have such a high success rate with students? This is like, I'm answering that. This is like all the thinking that goes into that. There was also an interesting, what was this? Is this for this class? Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath, about the cognitive reflection. This is really interesting. Cognitive reflection test. The CRT is really hard, but here's a strange thing. Do you know the easiest way to raise people's scores on the test? Make the test just a little bit harder. The psychologists Adam Alter and Daniel Oppenheimer tried this a few years ago with a group of undergraduates at Princeton University. They gave the CRT the normal way, and students averaged 1.9 correct answers out of 3. That's pretty good, though it was well short of the 2.18 that MIT students averaged. Then Alter and Oppenheimer printed out the test questions in a font. They printed out the test questions in a font that was really hard to read. A 10% gray, 10-point italics Myriad Pro font. The average score this time around, 2.45. Suddenly, the students were doing much better than their counterparts at MIT. That's strange, isn't it? Normally, we think that we are better at solving problems when they are presented clearly and simply, but here the opposite happened. Lesson: just make something a little bit harder and it actually improves performance. Repetition, accountability, discipline. This is probably the biggest reason why we're able to get people, our heroes, to overperform. Aside from the high frequency thinking, all the obvious stuff, is that whenever I work with somebody, I understand you got to be at the edge of your capability. So what did you do today that is like a win, right? So if you're doing pull-ups, you're doing push-ups, do as many push-ups as you can, right? Do as many pull-ups as you can, or many attempts as you can. And then tomorrow you get a little bit closer. And then you start eating better because all day you're thinking about doing that push-up and you don't want to have fat on you, right? All of a sudden your whole day revolves around doing this one push-up or doing this 10 push-ups. I want to get that 11th push-up, right? Or I want to run a little bit further. You got to have something like that in your life. And when you do, you get addicted to the improving. You enjoy that accumulation of effort, that accumulation of input. It becomes easier to unlock what happens on day 38 with the penny doubler or Domino 57, where you can crush the star, the sun, the moon, and our entire galaxy, basically. The accumulation, you've got to accumulate these small wins, because these small wins, relatively speaking, smaller and smaller wins, they keep you increasing your skill daily. All of a sudden, you're in a totally different place. This is what you must do. You must have this attitude of things getting a little bit harder. You're at the very edge of your skill set, and you constantly come back and just keep improving it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And as it gets a little bit harder, you actually enjoy the challenge. You want to run further. You want to lift harder. You want to do more push-ups, because your baseline becomes higher and higher. So at first, it might be hard to make $1,000 a month, right? Pretty soon that becomes easy. Now let's go to $1,500. Now let's go to $2,500. Now let's go to $5,000. Now let's go to $10,000, $20,000. honestly. This is how we say stuff like, how much money can we make with one sign out? And our record, I think, is still like $15,000 a month for 10 months, I believe. It was 9 months. Now we had a 10th month. How do we, that stuff seems impossible and it seems like work, but for us, for the right people, for the right energy, the right type of people with the right thinking, it becomes something that becomes enjoyable. Like how you need to be, like, what did you do today that was record breaking? And if you didn't have anything, man, things are not going to go well for you. You're on a path headed in a downward spiral. You got to have, that's one of the things we do always with our students. We always, the heroes, the first thing we talk about is what was your big win? What was the record breaking thing that you did this today or this week? You got to have stuff like that. By being at the edge of your capability, you'll always make sure that you do really amazing things. Qualifying. Okay, so about to answer the question about the success rate. My success rate, nobody will ever talk about this, by the way. Nobody will ever talk about this. I'm about to give you the exact number of the success rate. Mine has been for years now. I define success, first of all, the highest definition that I know, which is 10 to 30 grand a month. If you don't make 10 to 30 grand a month consistently, then I don't consider you a success. And I would even say it's more than 30 grand a month. But we're probably going to raise that to like 50, 100 grand a month, right? So the question is, how many people that I work with get to that level? The worst it's ever been has been 20%. So it means 80% did not get there. Now, if you make your money back or they succeed or they, whatever that's not, again, my definition doesn't change. 10 to 30 grand a month is what we use. Again, is the highest definition I know for any kind of formal or informal training, education or income ascension, social mobility, anything like this, right? So 10 to 30 grand a month, my success rate is about 20%, the worst it's ever been, which means 1 out of 5. But usually it's around 1 out of 2 to 1 out of 3, about 20, 30%, 30, 40%, around there. So anywhere from 20 to 40%. But that sounds a lot better than it is because I don't work with students. It's very, like, you got to convince me to take someone on. And I had to convince me for a while because I thought, man, it's going to be awkward and weird. It's like, and plus, what if it doesn't work out? What if she's just like one of those, oh, I'm doing what I survive. What else? Right. I'm just being honest. It's a drag on everybody. So you got to have the right attitude. You got to have infinite gratitude, what we've talked about. It's, we have so many heroes right now. We have people that we work with. A lot of them are in prison. A lot of people are coming out of prison, halfway houses now, as we've been working with them. And it's amazing. Somebody, you'll have 10 people go out, like nobody's trying to hire anybody with a record. 9 of them will say that. One of them comes back and says, this is the most amazing thing in the world. And they've got this job and that job. They're doing a GXM over here. They've got all these things going on. And they're the same exact background, same everything, same records. So they came from the same place, the same institution that they were locked up in. And they had the same similar type of crime, right? What's the difference? Gratitude, right? So we qualify people. That's one of the reasons why we have such a high success rate. I qualify people. It takes a lot to convince me that you're not going to be a dickhead and that I'm not going to regret working with you. I can never look at my watch, as I always say. Every conversation has to be fun. I have done far too much for you and for other people. I've done far too much for you. I'm talking about it for a new student than for us to tolerate any LC stuff, any horse shit. You got to be nothing but grateful. This is an amazing time, the greatest time in history. This is the greatest time to be alive. 110 billion people have been on Earth. We are the luckiest 5%. Of that 5%, you're in America, you're in the West, you're the luckiest of the luckiest 5%. How many of those people are able to create income ascension, social mobility? It's the tiniest of the tiniest. You're luckiest of the luckiest of the luckiest. I am also included in that group of being that lucky and constantly having that gratitude. That's what we want to have, that gratitude that you can go out and change the world, create income ascension, build your own ladder, and then help other people see their ladders and raise them up. And when you change someone's life, you're making them a better son, a better daughter, a better parent. That then carries on to making those kids better parents. The effect you're having lasts over a century. It's going to far outlive you. It's an amazing thing. How can you not be in love with that? Again, it comes down to qualifying. It's not that hard to make 10 to 30 grand. I know people think it's a fucking impossible. It's not. We've got all kinds. If I've proven anything to not just myself, but to also to people who, when I first started this, thought it was ridiculous to have, especially our group of, like special needs, and we have heroes and stuff. People even now like, wait, you guys do what? It is crazy. It is. And it's not just the quality of the training, although I have to say it, but it's the hunger of the people, how hungry you are. They are often like foreigners who come to America. They see America as a land of opportunity. That's why the foreigners are the only ones who create social mobility. The same thing happens with our heroes because they're used to being told that they have no future and they're hungry. When they find that opportunity, man, they grab it by the hair. That's the same way Anna was her whole life. I'm only saying this because she's talked about this. She was kind of like a loser. She felt like that from her family and her friends, and she was never supported in her goals. They all thought, oh, she's not going to do much. And she didn't. But all she needed was that opportunity, and man, she set the world on fire. Man, just amazing things. Not even, there's been some creepers that she's had, so I won't give too much information, otherwise it'll be too obvious. I don't want to give personal information, but for those of you that know that the position she's in right now, she's something like the Steve Jobs of the special needs world and the things that are happening. It's just amazing. I love it. All I want are more Annas. It's the only reason I'm making this video. It's the only reason I'm even considering working with students. I only want more Annas. The Are You Okay? So there's a Michael Jackson game called Are You Okay? Are You Okay? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? You go to this, like, it's a hotel. It's really crazy. And Michael Jackson comes, like, really freaky. He looks like the animatronic, really scary game. And there's all kinds of viral videos about this. The Are You Okay? And they I don't think they were legally allowed to say it's Michael Jackson, but but it's Michael Jackson. But here's the thing. You start the game out, you play this game, and he comes and he's freaky, he moves. It's like really terrifying game. But it's like, how does he keep finding you? That's what they say at the beginning. How does he keep finding you? So you turn off your flashlight, you walk really slow, you try not to make any noise, right? But he keeps finding you, and when he finds you, it's like really freaky. He comes up the screen, there's like all these like demented face. And it's a really fun game. But what happens is that it becomes too difficult. A lot of people quit because it becomes really difficult because you're in this one room and you can't go anywhere, you can't move. He finds you. It's like, what is happening? And then you find out the secret. The secret is, I shouldn't be saying this. If you like video games, you don't want to hear this. Go play the game. See if you can figure out the secret. We had to look it up. But the secret is, it's the microphone. The microphone. That's how he can hear you, the Ayuwoki. And so the more people you have in a room, because it's a game you play with a bunch of people, like, oh, turn around. Oh, he's over there. He hears you on the microphone. So you got to play the game silently, right? But when you see him, he's looking for you and people scream and then he finds you. So you got to play a game. Everyone's got to be quiet in the game. It's really a lot of fun. But once you know that little secret, then the game can be fun because otherwise it becomes too hard. We all respond to difficulty the same way. At first, if it's a little difficult, we rise to the challenge. But if it's too difficult, we all quit. Everyone's like that. And that's like this Goldilocks place where you got to know the secret. Like Michael Jackson can hear you on the microphone. Once you know the secret, it's like, okay, now it comes back to being not too crazy and not too out of control fun. And it's one of the big secrets of this game, but I've always used that as an example of the game because it may be one of the worst games you've ever played because you move and you just die. It's scary, but you can't move. It's like, you hate this because the difficulty is too high. But once you figure out the secret, now you can adjust the difficulty. I say that because that is what we do with everything. Everything's got to be a game. If it's a game, it's fun, it's addictive, improvements become addictive and fun, and you don't have these problems. It's the same thing coming out like the passion and goal. Just having a change. Everyone has something that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do something with your life. There's something great and grand and some cause that you're supposed to change and lives you're supposed to touch in some way, right? That the distance between that happening and you doing that and living to your fullest comes down to how well you can control your thoughts and how well trained you get. Make it 30 grand a month of doing any of this stuff. It's just like everything else we say. You're either trained and you know what you're doing or you're just guessing. And it's just a situation where if you can become addicted, if you can be right at the edge of your skill set, right at the edge of what you're capable of, so where your capabilities expand, right? And your skill set improves, your execution improves, there's nothing you can't do. It just becomes, every day becomes an adventure. And you get around people that are like that. I know this sounds like I'm just saying this, but the highlight of my day, one of the highlights of my day is hearing the records these guys are breaking every single day. It's amazing. We just did a video on making 30 grand a month and a week. And somebody said that we thought 4 days, but actually we just found out it's 48 hours. 48 hours. So the record now, somebody goes out, puts out signs, and within 48 hours, they flip a house off Zillow and make over 30 grand. I love that stuff. That's amazing. But again, if it's too difficult, like if you hear that and you think that's really, I could never do that. Again, you don't want to think like that, but I get it. I see what you could say. So let's say 30 days. Be at the very edge of your capability, and then your capability rises and you get addicted. You get excited about the improvements. You love the workout. You actually look forward to eating the vegetables. That's how you know you're cured. Passion, man. I don't know what it is for you, but if you, like the number one thing I look at, you got to have some change you want to see in the world. We're at a time right now with cryptocurrencies, with e-learning, with the ability to, with not just with our special needs stuff, but create income extension, to build businesses. Right now, the number one skill that people need is entrepreneurship. The ability to go out and start a business. It's never been easier or cheaper than right now. You can start everything we talk about. We do zero down with no loans ever. This is the time to build companies, to raise people up, to go out, build your teams. We've got all kinds of stories, man, of people that are making it happen, man. This is the time to change the world. It's never been easier to do. And without even leaving your house, man, what an amazing time to be alive. And you have got to have something that when you think, your thoughts should get you high. Your thoughts should give you chills and butterflies. I go through my other classes on the high frequency thinking. That's where you want to live. One of the things, these are all the things that we talk about, we train people with. This is how people go out. The same thing can happen where, you get hung up on 10 times. One guy, that one trained person, that one person who copies out those long ass fucking Craigslist emails. That's who we want. That crazy person. That's the person we want. Olympian obsession. 10 years. I often ask myself when I talk to somebody, am I going to be talking to this person? Am I going to be friends with this person in 10, 15 years? If the answer is like, well, I don't know. If it's hard to see, I don't pursue that. I only want people, it's like, man, I'm going to be with this guy, ride or die, man, 10, 20 years. We talk about comic book, hero narration, writing your life like it's a comic book. One of the ways we do that is when you meet a new character, always ask yourself, is this person in my life for an episode? Are they in for a season? Or are they in till the fucking credits roll, man, till the fade to black? That's what you need. The people that are in there for till the fade to black. That's what you want to get around. I say the same thing about me, by the way. Stop listening to my stuff. If I don't bring you up, if you're not at the end of this, if you don't get chills, if you don't get butterflies, if these aren't these models, these ideas, all the stuff at Big Ria, if it doesn't do that for you, honestly, I'm not being sarcastic. I sincerely apologize. I really do. It's been my goal to make that happen. Everything I've learned, I put into every one of these videos, and I do this because I know there's people out there just like Anna, just like me. I would have been a dickhead too. And who's to say I wasn't doing LC stuff? And then I had the opportunity. You at your highest aspiration are helping people live better lives, improve improve themselves. What better thing that you can do with your life before it's over than to have something that lives on, that inspires people? And I could say that if I'm not doing that for you, I really do apologize. You should move on. Find someone that does, because that's where you need to be. High frequency thinking. Never again. The whole reason that I started training anybody, I've been training people since I was a teenager. Like, I've always been asked, like, whenever I got jobs, I always overperformed because I was hungry. Just like my aunt told me, show up and make everyone look lazy and do it enthusiastically. If you can do that, enthusiasm, like we say, makes up for everything. Just get in there, be enthusiastic and hungry, man. Get any job, just go into it enthusiastically. Then when you start adding on top of enthusiasm, skill, oh my gosh, it's just game over. Everywhere you go, you're always gonna be able to grow that business. You're never gonna have a shortage of opportunity. You're always gonna be flooded with an abundance of opportunity. Of all kinds of great things are gonna happen to you. You move 1%, the universe will move the other 99%. And our field of thinking, everybody that comes around us now, everybody's life instantly and dramatically changes and improves because our frequency is so strong. Our RDF, as Steve Jobs called it, is so strong that it affects other people. It actually changes what they do. It's really pretty inspiring, man. It's pretty cool. So the never agains. When I got my house, when I got my house ready, I talked about this many times. I lost all my money. I had nothing. I really had nothing. I mean, to a point where my car was running. I was like, I don't have enough money to get, and I remember my cards were all getting declined. I didn't have enough money to get gas in my tank, and I needed to make 25 grand a month. And I remember thinking in that moment, I was in the parking lot of my bank, and I remember thinking, after they just told me that my money's frozen, I remember thinking, that's a whole nother story, by the way. But I said, man, this can never happen again. This can never, God willing, if I have my health, my mental faculties are about me, I'm in America, Godspeed, I'm going to figure this out, and never again will this ever happen to me. I'm not going to, man. AZ, I'm not good at that, man. I'm not good at being a broke cunt, man. I couldn't do it. I was like, no, this isn't going to happen. I'm not good at this. And I had the same feeling I had when we were kids, and we had to move around, and it's just like that pit in my stomach. I could tell you, I know everyone's got a sob story. I don't have one. That was, I guess, the length of my sob story when all my money got frozen. But then I was back at it, man. Ain't no thing. I don't have a sob story. Nothing, because if you're in America, man, and you actually appreciate it and you do things with enthusiasm, man, people have talked about this, like about what makes America great, or like patriotism and stuff. I'm not saying this with any patriotism. You don't need that stuff. A lot of that stuff can be toxic, and especially when there's a sense of entitlement, as if you've done something. You haven't done anything. You don't deserve America. Nobody does. Nobody alive today does. The railroad tracks are pretty much laid down by the time you were born. We are in this, like, it's like you're born in an amusement park, but you were born in it. It's like the fish in water trying to describe water. You don't understand that you're in an amusement park. You only would if you had exposure to outside and you're actually in the real world. And if you don't have that, you don't understand. The only thing unique about America, I know people talk about military or the democracy, all that stuff, but many, go back through history. Many people have had strong militaries, have had, superpowers economically, and great governments. There's not that our elected officials are, if you look at them, like, oh, that's the cream of the crop for America. But the one thing that America has is that anybody from anywhere can make it. It's the way that we treat outsiders. That's the difference in America. That one thing has never been the case anywhere else. There's never been a superpower that was so loving and kind and wonderful and so opportunity providing to strangers, to quote unquote outsiders, right? It's an inherent idea of America that anyone can make it. Just focus and work hard and make it happen. And if you have excuses, you have LC thinking, just ask yourself, what would you say if your kid said that? You'd slap them and punch them, man. So I say all that because the never again's, like, in America, it's true. It's easy to quickly create. If you're in a situation, and man, my heart's with you more than you know. I could work with a lot of people. We have now a couple billionaires we work with and several centimillionaires, people with plenty of money. But I only did that stuff, and I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, but I only did that stuff just for the testimonial, just to say, oh, I'm rolling with these guys. Look at that. Hey, I'm going to Dubai and rolling with these billionaires. And there's all this pomp and show, but ultimately that work, it's just, I don't mean to be like religious or, prophetic in this, but honestly, it's the salt of the earth. Like, it's the people that when you can help someone make an extra $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can go make an extra 10, 15 grand a month. And they've been broke their whole lives. That, I believe, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but that has more impact and more help than helping someone go from like 100 million to 105 million, right? Although you're going to make a lot more money doing that, eventually you won't want the money. And once you get to that place, you really start to live and be who you are. And when you can do anything, you'll do the things. Like, imagine if you don't have to do anything, but yet you're still working 80 hours a week. That's a position where I've been. I'm so blessed to be in that position. That's a position everybody should be in. Whenever you talk to somebody, we get a lot of questions over, oh, I want to get trained. I want to learn this. Learn from somebody who doesn't need to do it and who's only doing it out of passion, who really has it, who's proven that they're good at doing it. They can actually create predictable results. And I say, if you find someone like that, tell me. I'll be their best student. Someone that can create a predictable result, man. Like I said, the never again stuff, I want to make sure that it never again happened to me. And if I ever got through this, if I was so lucky and so blessed to make it happen, I would make sure that anybody else that came in my life, I would do whatever I could to make sure their life was better and that they never had a situation. If you're in a situation where you have to count dollars, oh my gosh, man, or you gotta, get cheap stuff at the grocery store or buy your kids cheap clothes or whatever, man, you could change that. You could change that right now. And I mean real fast at fucking light speed. Get hungry. Don't need to buy anything. Do it. Just go through our stuff at Big Rehab. Talk about this again and again. That's what it's meant for. You can go out and you can change lives right now, starting with your own, starting with your families. It's not hard. It's not difficult, but you gotta get sick, man. You gotta get disgusted. It's gotta be a never again. Never again will this happen. And you can make it go. GXM, if nothing else, just start volunteering. Take your skill, practice it. You'll improve it. You'll start changing the world and raising lives up. That's how we have such a high success rate with students. I love you.